Well, it is 7 o'clock. You guys comfortable with getting started and getting our recruiting event underway, the first of several contact points. Welcome to our attendees. You see many people in front of you who are going to speak with you tonight, visit with you a little bit about officiating, and this is, like we said, the first of several contact points with you who have chosen to at least raise your hand and say, I'm interested in officiating, football specifically tonight. So I am Sandra Walter, one of the assistant commissioners here in the state of Indiana, responsible for the officials department. On behalf of the IHSAA, welcome. Molly, on behalf of the Indiana Sports Corp, she'd like to say a few words to you as well. Molly?
Hi, everybody. I'm Molly with the Indiana Sports Corporation. We are the sports commission for the city and the state of Indiana. We bid on and host large events such as the Big Ten football championship game and the Super Bowl and men's Final Four, NBA All-Star game, amongst others. So just wanted to say welcome. You will be hearing from me in the future about how you can continue this class. But again, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Molly. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. There's always a little bit of technology issue. We weren't removed from that either as we tried to get our panelists on this evening. Be reminded in your management panel when your webinar opens up, there's an audio selection. And should you be having audio issues through your device, you can certainly click that arrow to the left of audio to either join by your computer or your phone. If you're having audio difficulty, I would suggest you join by your cell phone. This will not be your cell number. You'll have your own specific when you open that panel, but feel free to join by your phone should you be having audio difficulties through your device. That is typical. With the number of folks on our call tonight, what we'd like to do is have any questions come to us via the question box. And our friend Andy Simpson is going to monitor those for us. And Andy, thank you for your help. If you have trouble accessing the questions area or typing that in, if you're on your phone especially, feel free to text Andy at 219-629-4149. Just text the question to him. At the end of the presentation, we'll go through those questions and answer those with our guest speakers this evening. At this time, Assistant Commissioner Robert Falcons, who runs our football fund for us in Indiana, is going to welcome you as well and introduce our first keynote speaker. Robert.
Thanks, Sandra. And again, for all our attendees, thanks for joining in with us tonight. Tonight's lineup is going to be an excellent opportunity for you to learn from leaders in the officiating realm. This is star power that you're going to see here, and it's a rarity that this much talent is assembled in one place. Each of these presenters is arguably the best in the business at whatever they do. And again, I want to take a minute to personally thank each and every one of our presenters for giving up their time, talent, and energy tonight. Having said that, let's kick off the evening with the veteran of IHSAA Football State Finals Championship Games. Kevin Brown and his crew are widely recognized for their work between the lines at several levels of competition. Kevin is very knowledgeable with respect to rules, mechanics, and game management. None of this is by accident. Kevin works very hard at his craft and has a passion for officiating, which you will soon see. I take great pride in presenting to you Kevin G. Brown.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Also appreciate putting that G in there to keep me differentiated from the 4 other Kevin Browns that are out there officiating in Indiana. So that's not lost on me. I wanted to say thanks to Robert and Sandra and Andy and everybody else for the opportunity, and feel free to cut me off when my time is over because I can talk about officiating for as much time as I'm allotted. Brief background, I've officiated for 30 years, baseball, basketball, and football in the state of Indiana. I'm still active in both basketball and football at the high school level. And over the 30 years, I've gotten introduced and am in the NFL replay officiating department. I'm currently a replay official with the NFL. So that's a 30-year career in a sentence or two. And I only bring that up because it's important in one respect. How did I start? And the answer to that question is I started just like everybody out there that's watching this. Somebody gave me the suggestion to begin officiating. or I came upon it on my own. And for me personally, I was a high school kid that umpired some Little League baseball games and some Babe Ruth baseball games. And then I went to college and I needed money there too. So I answered an ad in the Purdue Exponent newspaper for basketball officials refereeing intramurals at the COREC. And that was the start of it. So I was actually had a discussion with another person about the process of getting started in officiating, and I needed a title for this talk I was going to give tonight, and I've just kind of embraced the concept of don't let go of the rope. And so what does that mean? When I was growing up, I spent a lot of time water skiing and around water. And I remember when I was first learning to water ski, you know, you're sitting back there and you've got the rope and you're learning to slalom ski and you say, okay, hit it. And the ski boat takes off. And for those first few moments, there's just this wall of water around you and all of this confusion. And it's so easy to just let go of the rope and all of that water goes away and everything goes back to normal. But if you hang on to the rope long enough, eventually you plane out and you get your wits about you, and that's when the fun really starts. And I kind of make that analogy to high school officiating because I think that's what it's like. You have this apprehension at first about, do I really want to do this? Is this really for me? And everybody has Facebook, and we see all the negative publicity out there. And, you know, officials are punching bags for society, and we know all of the negative things that go along with it. And that's perfectly normal. So I think as you come to this fork in the road as to whether you want to be an official or you don't, I think people need to be honest with themselves. Why do you want to do it? And one of the primary motivators is money. And, you know, people ask themselves, well, is it okay to do something just for the money? And in this particular instance, I would say absolutely. And the reason I say that is because it was mine. And it was just the initial motivator. So as time goes on and you get involved in officiating, I think that money motivator dries up and goes away on its own. The people that I've experienced over 30 years that get involved in officiating, money may be an initial motivator to get you started in it, but the people that are driven by the money don't last very long because it's apparent that that's why they're there, and those people tend to just migrate away from it on their own. So if you're wondering, you know, is it okay to start officiating with money as a primary motivator? I'm here to tell you it's okay to start as a money motivator, but as time goes on, that will probably go away and other reasons will keep you in the business. So I talked a bit about the basic fears of starting officiating. I call it the social media fear, Karen the mom fear. You start doing lower level football and you've always got that mom Karen in the stands that wants to use you as that punching bag. And for some reason, I think it's a societal thing where people feel enabled to talk that way and to disrespect authority. And I know that is also a big wall to people. That's a big fear that they worry about how they're going to overcome that. And I would just suggest to you that there are processes to help you do that. There are around 20 associations in the state of Indiana. There are a number of groups, the IFOA. There are a lot of groups in officiating that will assign either formally, the IHSAA has one, a formal mentor program or an informal mentor program where the people that have been in the business for a while will help you overcome those things, those irrational criticisms. Once you get in officiating, you will realize you are going to get constructive criticism throughout the entire process, whether it is at the Pee Wee football level or the high school level or the collegiate level or the NFL level. If you're not prepared to accept constructive criticism, this probably isn't the right business for you or even the right hobby. But if you excel and want to prove yourself in stressful situations, if that sort of activity drives you, this is a good place for you. And all of those issues that are out there, societal issues that create barriers for people to want to take this chance on officiating, there are processes in place, mentors that will help you get over that and go through what I call the acceptance phase of the criticism, to where you know that it's coming, and when you get it, it doesn't bother you, and you turn it into a self-evaluation where it's okay to look and say, okay, I messed this up, I need to fix this mechanic, I need to move forward. And then ultimately the irrational criticism, the mentors will help you create a process where you can just dismiss that and it simply doesn't bother you anymore. Robert has assigned my football crew to some big games over the course of the years. And, it is fun, and I miss it in this COVID environment, going to a place where 10,000 people are going to take turns booing you. They take turns. You make a decision and half of them are happy and half of them are mad. So they have to take turns yelling at you. I can't wait to get back to a time and a place where I can go subject myself to that abuse. But it took 30 years to get there, and there were a lot of people that helped me along the way. So I say this to wrap up. I think it's important that people discuss and think about all of the negativity that there is in officiating, because it's true, it's there, but it's more important to think about all the positivity that there is in officiating. I've had the opportunity to meet Jerry Mark Bright and spend some time with him. I've met Bill Carollo and spent some time with him. David Green, Andy, Sandra, Robert, all of them, Tim. All these people have added positivity to my life. And after a 30-year career, as I look back on it, I would have never thought that the decision to start umpiring baseball at the Little League level in Attica, Indiana, of all places, would have been one of the most important decisions that I ever made in my life. And I say that from the bottom of my heart, because I have my blood family, and right behind that family is my officiating family. And in good times or bad, when you have your inner circle is your blood family, and right behind them is your officiating family, you look back on it and you thank God you made a decision to be an official. So with that in mind, I would just leave you with the final thought. If you choose to go down this road and be official, there are plenty of people to help support you. There are going to be times when you feel like you're learning how to water ski and there's a wall of water and you're thirsty, but you're not that thirsty, and the water just keeps pouring on you. I just stress to you, whatever you do, don't let go of the rope. So that's my moral today, and I appreciate it, and I'll take questions whenever the time's appropriated.
Thanks, Kevin. I hope one of the things that you guys heard in Kevin's comments were the fact that this is really a community. It's a small community, but it's one that's pretty tightly intertwined. And as Kevin said, you're gonna have the opportunity to meet some people and do some things that you wouldn't normally be able to do because of that community. And it's one where there's some shared experiences, good, bad, and indifferent. But like any other things you do, as I said before, if you've got the passion for it, this is the place for you. Sandra?
Thank you, Robert. Kevin, thank you. Much appreciated. Let's get into a little bit about our need for recruiting. The average age in Indiana of an official is 50.1 years of age. That's overall program officials. We need just over 6,500 officials to cover existing games. 2021, albeit in a different year, we've licensed thus far 57, just shy of 5,800 officials. What we have are IHSAA member schools continuing to build programs, continuing to add sports. Our obligation with the IHSAA is to continue to provide quality officiating, and that's where you come in. Recruiting and retention. We have a mentoring program Kevin just mentioned. We use veteran officials, state-level officials. We couple them with you and help lead you toward the path of success with officiating. You're going to talk tonight with Mark about support from local official associations. And you're also going to get some contact information from us tonight as far as support from our office, certainly. And then Molly will wrap up this evening with some support from Indiana Sports Corp and what we're going to do for you all in April. Let's move on to professionalism. Mark? Muted.
Yes, Sandra, I think I was going to take that one. This is Andy.
All right, sir. Fire away, Andy. Sorry.
I'll go ahead and run with that one. Hi, I'm Andy Simpson, IHSAA official for 30 years. I've officiated high school football. I also officiate basketball, and it's like Kevin said, it's been probably one of the greatest decisions I've ever made. And for 30 years, I've really enjoyed doing what I do and working with the IHSAA and all the people involved. So a little bit about professionalism. It's something that's very important to what we do. It's important in any aspect of life as far as your job. Officiating does become a job at one point, and it's a job that you should take very serious. Professionalism I define as a practice of activities such as officiating. You know, you practice being official, or you practice being professional at all times. And to be a good official, you need to practice at your craft. And what's that mean? That means involving some characteristics that you must have. There's three very important ones that I like to talk about a lot. One of them is integrity and honesty. That speaks kind of for itself. If you're not honest with your coaches, your players, your partners, your integrity will be in question. And right after that, we're going to talk a little bit about being responsible and dependable. In the officiating industry, you need to be responsible to your crew, your players, your coaches. You need to be accountable for all of your actions, meaning get there on time. You know, communicate with athletic directors, communicate with the IHSAA, your assigners, and people like that. You need to be accountable for your actions, and that involves at all level of officiating. You'll find that will serve you well if you do those two things. And the one thing I really talk about is dependability. My dad always had a saying, if you're on time, you're late. So, you know, that's kind of been inbred in me. So when you do go to games and when you get assigned games, make sure you're there early. Make sure you communicate with your partners, your athletic directors, put them at ease, make sure they know you're going to be there on time. And that being part of professionalism, those three characteristics will serve you well. Appearance is the last one I'm going to talk about. Obviously, there's so many more characteristics that we can talk about to be a great official, but these three are just going to get you started. You know, it looks the part. When you walk in, have your uniform ready, clean shoes, clean uniform. You know, first impressions mean a lot. So when you walk in there, be ready to go. You know, you can fool a lot of people just by looking good. With that, I'm going to go right over to social media. In this day and age of social media, what you post online says a lot about your own person. You know, social media posts spread like wildfire, so you really have to be careful what you put in writing. Our football crew, and it is a high school crew, but we treat it like an NFL crew. We treat it like an NCAA crew. Our football crew has a no social media policy, meaning not that you can't go on social media, but their crew can't post. We don't really allow any of the crew members to post anything about officials. Somebody may post something about a great game or something like that, but we don't post anything about football games, other officials, you know, anything we do with the game, the fans, anything. We just kind of leave that alone, because you will find that will serve you a lot better if you make a phone call to one of your officiating buddies if there's a problem out there than posting it on Facebook or social media. Because remember, there's one thing they can't do. They cannot quote silence. So it's very important that you make sure you're very careful with that. And as officials, you know what, Kevin Brown said it best, you know, there's 50% of the people we're going to make happy, and the other 50 we're not. They do enough criticizing for us, so there's no need to get on social media and criticize each other. So be a great partner, be a good official, and I really hope everybody joins in and becomes an official. And we are definitely here to help you. Everybody's got my number, you've got my emails. I am always on call and ready to help anybody at any time. So with that, I will just say be socially responsible, and we look forward to having you on the team. So I will introduce now Mark Maxwell, who's the president of the 24 associations in the state of Indiana, and we call that the IHSAA group. Mark, it's all you.
Thanks, Andy. Welcome, everyone. My background, I've been a high school official for over 20 years, and I've worked my way into being a small part of the Big Ten replay staff over the last 8 years. So I started out just like you, grassroots, 7th and 8th grade, worked my way up. I had a lot of help from a lot of good people to get me to where I'm at today. You know, communication is probably one of the most important keys to becoming a good, successful official. You know, not every call you make is going to make everyone happy, and you're going to make mistakes. 10% is based on what you call, 30% as you can read based on the tone and voice and delivery, and 60% based on nonverbal cues and body language. You know, you need to listen, address it, and move on. As I said, you're going to make mistakes. Everybody does, but you own your own mistakes and you move on. Communication, as I said, is a key element. I'd like for you guys to watch an example of one of our veteran officials, Mike Eason, giving you an example of great communication during a recent state final football game.
Parker, pass is tipped, deflected. Again, a flag comes down, but the ball was tipped to the line of scrimmage. This flag's going to get wiped off.
Agree. And credit to Will Brackett there on defense. He blitzed off the edge and interrupted the timing on that slant route. Otherwise, it looked like they had a clear shot for a TD.
Foul for pass interference as the ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage.
A great job to communicate by our officiating crew. We've referenced Mike Easton, the referee. He's joined by Stu Casper, Jerry Blum, Tom Walters, and Doug Coddington again. The official on the outside didn't see that it was tipped. They
Are you out there, Mark? So if everybody's listening, Sandra, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Andrew.
So a little bit about that play. That's Mike Eason working the state finals. Mike is a veteran official, and if everybody notices one thing about that, how the crew got together and communicated, it's very important as a crew that we do communicate. We have verbal and nonverbal signals that we give out there to each other. The one thing that Mike did really well during that communication was you got to remember, we also communicate with our crew, but we also communicate with fans, coaches, and players. So those visual signals that Michael was giving communicated a lot of information to a lot of people, and it keeps the game flowing smoothly. And as you notice, we pick up the flag, and we go to the next play, and we kind of minimize the game interrupters on that. And that's why communication is so important to football officiating and any officiating for that fact.
Mark, you got the next slides, or Andy, you want to move forward?
Sure, Mark must be, or I'm not sure if he's there, but a little bit more about the communication, humility, a modest or low view of one's own importance. You know, as an official, we need to be seen as little as possible. You know, it's not our job to go out there and showboat, but it is our job to take control and be keepers of the game. And it's very important that we do that in a very minimalistic way and make sure that we just do our jobs, move on, and keep the game flowing. And I think players and coaches and fans all appreciate when we do that. The other thing we need to understand is we need to know when to walk away. And I said this earlier during my little part, silence can't be quoted. So you listen to comments and you answer questions if the question needs to be answered. So, you know, with those things, communication is very important. A couple of the verbal don'ts that we want to go, if you want to go to the next slide, Sandra, that would be great. A couple of the verbal deflectors we talk about, you will see, and mostly in football, the wings get a lot of the communication with the coaches. The white hat or the referee will come over if needed. A lot of times now we use communication devices and we can communicate without actually running over to the wings nowadays, which is a big help. Some of the questions that coaches say, Coach, you may be right. You know, from your angle, you've seen something different than I did. Coach, this is what I saw from my angle. You know, coaches, that's her call, and she had a good look at the play. You know, if that person gets over, you can have a little discussion with them. That's probably more in a basketball type of officiating atmosphere than football. You know, coach, your player created that contact, and that could be a DPI or OPI. Those are a lot of things we talk about. So coach, the player was vertical and or legal. That is probably more of a basketball quote than football, but it does kind of relate to DPIs, defensive pass interference, or OPIs, offensive pass interference, or other things or other plays like that. So with that, Sandra, we'll move right into self-improvement. I think I'm going to wind up covering that, and everybody's probably going to get tired of my voice, but as Kevin said, I do love what I do, and I appreciate everybody allowing us to officiate and do what we do. I think the longer you officiate, like Kevin said, you will find your place in officiating, and you will find that you love what you do. It no longer becomes a job, but it becomes something that you just love to do, and hopefully everybody else out there will fall in love with officiating. And again, we are here to help. So self-improvement, it's really important. There's so many tools in our bags out there anymore for self-improvement: mentoring, training, films, clinics, association meetings, YouTube. We have a new thing in the IHSAA called RefQuest, to where we download clips and we share clips. The knowledge that you gain from video is priceless. We can take one clip and talk about it for hours because of the different things that you will learn just on video clips itself. The one thing that I would talk about self-improvement, start at a level that is not as stressful as if you're jumping right into high school football. Start at that lower level. We all started there. Jerry Markbright, Bill, we all started at a lower level. We all had to start somewhere. And that's where we started, and look where they're at now. Look where we're all at now. And you have the potential to do the same thing as we did, but make sure you do start at a level that you can handle. All right, so that's very important. Learn preventive officiating, and you're going to do that. You're going to learn preventive officiating. The more you officiate, the more you'll learn. Preventive officiating is one of the most important tools out there. You will learn that just from experience. You'll learn it from going to meetings. You'll learn from talking to veteran officials. You'll learn from, again, watching clips and saying, hey, maybe I could have done this different. Maybe I could have done that different. Game awareness, that also kind of relates to what we just talked about. You'll understand game awareness a little bit more about situations. If it's 3rd and 10, you can expect a pass. If it's 3rd and 1, you can expect a run. You can be ready, you can anticipate those calls, but the one thing you want to do, you want to anticipate them, but expect the unexpected. So just be ready, okay? The last thing that I'd like to talk about when it comes to that is dead ball officiating. Dead ball officiating is an underrated talent, or it's where a lot of things happen and people kind of lose focus when the ball is dead. But you have to remember that we need to continue to dead ball officiate. This is when players get a little chippy and a few things are said that shouldn't be said. So when you're out there and you're officiating football, just because the ball is dead and we're between plays does not mean that we have time to take off. So don't let your guard down. And when you dead ball officiate, I think, and you talk to mentors or veteran officials of all kinds, they will tell you that dead ball officiating is one of the most important parts of the game. And as you get more experience, I think you'll figure that one out. With that, some self-improvement. I'd just like to talk to people a little bit about some of the tools we have. Some of them are some of these books. I have rule books. We have the referee magazine. I keep a personal journal on every game that I've ever worked. I probably have 10 or 20 of these journals filled out. With every game, I fill out plays. After I cut clips and plays, I have them in these clips, or I have this in my journal that I go back to, and that's how I start my season. I just go back and look at some of the other things. But there's great literature out there on holding, on everything you need to do. One of the great studies guides is the Reading Guide. That is something else that you can work on once you get going on that. One of the great things that came out of this, I'd like to introduce a young man named Kevin Mikesell, who I'm very proud to say is on our football crew. At the 2026 6A state finals this year, with all of Kevin's self-improvement and the training that Kevin's been through and the sleepless nights that we've stayed up after missing a call, his career led up to one play, and it happened in the 2026 IHSAA state finals this year, and it made the ESPN top 10 #1 play of the day on November 27th, and it all led up to this moment. Sandra?
Providence, they showing their offense. They're showing it here by going on 4th and 7. Looked like Westfield was going to bring some pressure. And was it picked off? Yes, it was. What an effort. What an effort. .25 on the pick. Kyle Papp.
Kyle Papp runs the route for the receiver there. He has a great break on the out-breaking route, beats back, and just look at the concentration here. The ball's up in the air. He's able to tip it to himself. Wow, look at the athleticism of that. Able to get his hand underneath the ball. My goodness, Mark, what a play.
It touched his helmet, his shoulder pads, and everything he could touch but the ground. And you know, we talked about how soft the corners have been playing against me most of that first half, and that was a great adjustment for.
So I'll just end it by saying we're high school officials, and we probably had 60 million people look at that play. And with all of Kevin's training and all of the crew's work that we've done together, it all led up to this one moment in his life. And Kevin's been at it 25, 30 years also, and he makes ESPN top 10 plays. And as an Indiana football official, we're very proud to have that on national TV and represent Indiana football in that kind of way. So, Sandra, with that, head to the next clip. Okay. I did kind of forget. I'm sorry about that. I forgot one thing. Self-improvement also includes physical fitness, off-season workouts, healthier diet decisions. The one thing that this has done for me is I am kind of a McDonald's freak, and it has kind of told me to lay off the McDonald's a little bit and get a little healthier. So officiating did cause me to eat a little healthier and get in a little better shape. Mental preparation. Before the games, you need to take a little bit of time and get mentally prepared for this. Look, life gets in the way sometimes, but the one thing that really kind of sets you at ease, we have X amount of minutes on a football field where the world goes away and all we have to do is officiate sports. And it's a great way to mentally prepare yourself when you're on the way to that game to remember the rest of the world can go away. But at that 32 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever time you're going to be there, you need to be mentally ready. So conduct a really good comprehensive pregame with your crew, whether it be basketball, whether it be football, whatever it is. Make sure, I've talked earlier about getting there on time and getting there earlier. There's a reason that you want to get there early is so you can go over your game plan to be prepared to officiate that game. A lot of people depend on what we do. Mental preparation is part of what we do. You've got student athletes that count on us. You got parents that count on us. You got fans that count on us. So be prepared, not only physically, but mentally be prepared to do what we do. Mark?
We're going to try this again if you can hear me.
You're there, buddy.
Well, association involvement is another critical part to improvement. There are 24 associations in the state of Indiana that's scattered throughout that conduct regular meetings for their members. Of these 24 associations, we meet regularly every quarter down at the IHSAA office to help with various needs of the licensed officials. And what we do is for the whole, not the one. Individual associations provide mentors to help recruits with training on the use of the IHSAA dashboard, event link software, and so forth. They also are very instrumental in helping to recruit, establish communications with area schools and ADs for securing games. Attending games to learn with your mentor, inviting the mentor to observe a game that you're doing so you get constructive feedback. And in those associations, find that go-to person that you feel the most comfortable with. I know that when I first started, the first meetings that I went to, I would sit in the back and act like I was a fly on the wall and wouldn't ask any questions because I was afraid to. Never be afraid to ask a question. You may not like the answer, which a lot of people, when they ask me questions, don't like my answers, but it is what it is. I'm as truthful as I can possibly be. But those are the kind of people that you need to go to and pick their brains on a regular basis to learn the ins and outs of how those good veteran officials coordinate and work their games week in and week out. These association meetings are held on a monthly and a weekly basis. They also provide certification clinics for different sports. You may have 10 or 11 different sports in that association with sports chairs that are going to help you improve. So reach out to those individuals. If you don't know, you can always contact me. My email address and phone number is at the bottom of this clip. I'm here to help. I'll do anything I can to help officiating in the state of Indiana. And it is the best brotherhood that I've ever been a part of in my life. And I've been around quite a while. So with that, we'll just move on to the next slide and go from there.
Mark, Andy, thank you. Appreciate you going through a few items with our attendees. A couple of resources just to review quickly before we get to our another two guest speakers that you're going to absolutely love this evening. NFHS.org is a great resource. Probably even better is NFHSlearn.com, where there are sports-specific courses there, free of charge. Hop on and run through those. Will certainly benefit you greatly. Like we mentioned earlier, our office, always accessible. And the phone number is there. My email is there. Feel free to contact us at any time. Referee Magazine, probably one of the best resources you could invest in. NASO has great articles through that. Bill Topp with Referee Magazine does a fabulous job with that publication. Multiple sports, not just football. So if you've got a need right now to start looking into publications, I would suggest Referee Magazine might be your first stop. So at www.referee.com, you can find the way to secure that subscription. And with that, Mr. McGuire, if you're ready, Tim McGuire, is going to introduce our last two guest speakers of the evening. Tim, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit first.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sandra. Tim McGuire, this is my 29th year of officiating. And I tell you, it's been a great ride for me. I started out working Little League football on the west side of Indianapolis, worked in high school for several years, working a state championship, worked my way up through Division III into the Mid-American Conference and currently working in the Big Ten Conference. And so it's been a great ride, and a couple of things that I think that you'll get out of officiating is, number one, you get to stay involved in a sport that you love. Number two, there's camaraderie that comes with being a part of and continuing to be a part of a team that you probably enjoyed throughout your high school playing days or college playing days. And you just are able to stay involved, and you get to meet a lot of people that you wouldn't otherwise come across. And so it's my pleasure to introduce some of the rock stars of the officiating world at this point. I'll introduce Bill, and I'll let Bill introduce Jerry. But Bill Carollo has been a part of officiating, working his way through the Big Ten, was an NFL official from 1989 to 2008, and was able to work 2 Super Bowls during his tenure there. In 2009, he became the director of football officials for the Collegiate Officiating Consortium, which includes the Big Ten,
the Mid-American Conference, and the Missouri Valley. And he is also on the NCAA Football Rules Committee. He's been an excellent leader in both the business world and the officiating world, and has been very supportive of our recruiting efforts here in the state of Indiana. Bill?
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate the opportunity to address everybody here. And I thought the previous presentations, and they're like a mini clinic, if you will. We're covering so many different topics, from preparation to communications to professionalism, etc. These are all really, really important and skills that you really need to have. And you'll hear it probably a few more times from Jerry and myself. But I commend you for taking the time on a Monday evening in the middle of COVID and everything else to spend some time to listen and learn a little bit more about officiating. And we all kind of started the same way as far as being officials. I did not start out, never wanted to be an official. I grew up in the Midwest, and I wanted to replace Bart Starr. Well, I wasn't big enough, strong enough, couldn't throw the ball to the sideline fast enough, etc. So we all have our limitations. So you have to find, what you're good at. And I don't want to be a jack of all trades, but I wanted certainly to find something I could be really good at. And what officiating taught me is, how good can you really be? It's the greatest test that I've ever had. It's harder than raising 4 kids. It's harder than a corporate job at IBM. It's harder than anything I tried, harder than golf, because you're tested every day, every play. And there's a lot of people, and we heard it earlier, that the half the people will agree and the other half of the people will disagree with your calls. And I appreciate Tim's kind words introducing me as a rock star. Well, if I'm a rock star, I can tell you I've been cheered by thousands, but unfortunately I've been booed by millions. So being a rock star in officiating isn't quite like being Peyton Manning, a quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, and going to the Super Bowl and winning. And so there's, you have to, you end up, most of us end up where we're supposed to be. And if you have even an inkling and a small interest in officiating, there are so many resources, especially in the state of Indiana, the Indianapolis area, but throughout the entire state. And I just give you one statistic. There are more officials coming out of Indiana today, and I'm saying, and Jerry can test me or Tim can test me on this, but coming out of Indiana that get to the NFL in the last 10 years than any other state in the country. I mean, that's a tribute to what Sandra and Molly and Kevin and Andy and David and everybody, what you're doing in Indiana. There are a lot of resources, and this is just giving you the opportunity. People are, they're looking for the right people because the people that come into officiating in any sport, and I sit on the NASO board, we lose about 70% of the officials in the first 3 years. So what you heard about finding a mentor, finding a sponsor, someone that will go to bat for you, finding a local organization, getting involved, not being afraid to make a mistake. I never worked at football, baseball, whatever the sport might be. You know what? Have some courage. Go out there. Don't be afraid that you might make a mistake. We're all human. We all make mistakes. There's only 2 perfect things in the world. It's your mother and it's your maker. Other than that, we make a lot of mistakes day in and day out throughout the day. And we're going to be down in Indianapolis on this weekend for the Big Ten Championship. If you want, you can watch Tim McGuire work Friday night at Rutgers. I think Tim is there. And you can evaluate that work. You can turn on Saturday at noon and watch the Big Ten officials work the championship game, and you will find 4, 5, 6 mistakes throughout 180 plays in that game. That's a good game. We're human. We make those mistakes. You overcome them. The people that are working this weekend are the best in the Big Ten. They're the best throughout the country because most of the conference championships or playoff games are headed to this weekend. So a lot of good opportunities, but I have to emphasize and compliment the the panel that's involved with the Sports Corporation, the High School Association there, and the local groups. I think we said it was 24 different associations in the state. You are producing the best officials in the country, in the world. And it's unbelievable that we've done this now for probably 7 or 8 years, having the most to go to the NFL. So it's a tribute to what they're doing, but it's the people that come into it. It's their attitude. It's people with good integrity that we're looking for. They have to have a passion. They know they'll make mistakes, and they know it's going to be tough, and usually you don't make #1 sports play on ESPN on November 27th, for the correct call. It's usually a screwed up call, so that's the risk you take. You got to be tough. You have to be mentally tough. The other presenters talked about the ingredients, what we look for, what you can do, things that you can control. Those are all really important. So it's not like I got talent. I'm an ex-player. I can be a good official. Talent isn't enough. It's rolling up your sleeves, working really hard, giving it the extra effort, and then you got to be lucky. And that's why I say go back to someone that's really successful and shadow them, follow them, see how they do it. What makes them tick? Why did they move? Why did Tim move from D3 to the Mid-American, to the Big Ten, to the championship game, etc.? How do you do that? And I'm telling you, if you're really interested and you're not afraid of someone that might say no, and I'm telling you, if you ask an official, would you help me? They'll never say no. And it doesn't happen too often. They will never say no. They'll never turn down another official. And there's a lot of reasons why, we're pushing hard to get the right people in officiating, because it's so important. And with COVID and some states not having games, I feel really bad. Last weekend we had 4 games canceled between the Mid-American Conference and the Big Ten. And every week we've had games canceled or officials have to cancel because of COVID. But we're going to get back to a strong field soon. Next year, maybe in spring. We don't have the final answers, but we're headed in the right directions, and we need officials. And I am looking at partnering, and I oversee a lot of Division III conferences, and I work closely with high school conferences throughout the Midwest. And those are feeder programs. And when you want to get your feet experienced and get on the field at Purdue or at Indiana or at Ball State or at Indiana State, whatever level you want to get to, I can help you. Tim can help you. The whole group can help you get out there. So if you don't have spring football in high school, which most of us don't, maybe Texas does and a couple other states around the country, but if you don't, we certainly can get you in to college conferences, spring practices, scrimmages, and you can get tested, and that's how you get a really good feel. Is this for me or not? Because you know what? I'll tell you, it's not for everybody, but it is a really good opportunity to really prove how tough you are, how mentally tough you are, and you're in the inner circle. You're with the top players, you're with the top coaches, the top athletic directors, etc. And you learn from them, those people too, as well as you can continue the sport. I wasn't good enough. I started off telling you I wasn't good enough an athlete to play at the next level, but I'm back on the field for X number of years, competing with them, competing to see how good I can be, see how good the crew can be, see how good the conference can be, etc. So to me, it's the best by far advocation in the world. The best thing you can do on the side. And it starts off as a part-time job for a little bit of money, we said. A little bit of prestige, maybe it's your ego. I don't care why you start, but it is so rewarding. When you think of a person like a Jerry Markbright, I'm going to hand the baton to Jerry now. When you think about his career, Jerry and I both started in the Catholic League or the Jewish League in Milwaukee or Chicago, working games for $4 or $5 a game, and sometimes $4 or $5, maybe $10 for 3 games on a Saturday or a Sunday. So we didn't start at high school. We actually started in grade school, Pop Warner, football, basketball. We both did it. We both did baseball. We did a lot of sports, but we slowly tried to craft our skills. And because of the pressure, we tried to be really good, not just good, but be the best at our craft. And we went into one sport, which is football. So 461 games later, after 23 years, Jerry decided to retire from the NFL. Another 10 years before that in the Big Ten, 100 plus games in the Big Ten. a lot of experience. Why did that happen to Jerry Markbright? How did that work out so well for him? Like I said, it's integrity. It was his passion. It was his attitude. He was being only 2% better than the other guys that wanted to try it. Never took anything for granted. He's received every award in officiating that anybody could ever get. He has more awards than the next 10 people, combined. It's Jerry Markbright, and he's a wonderful person. What he does, and I'll share this, Jerry. I'll just say you're over 80 years old, but he works full-time in the Big Ten. He's in charge of all the trainers in the Big Ten. So when you see results and when the fans or someone calls and complains about a call, I said, call Jerry Markbright. He's your head trainer in the Big Ten. And they say, well, I know Jerry Markbright. I have his book. I read his book. And I said, well, you can talk to Jerry. He's in charge, and Jerry does a wonderful job, and he has the respect of everybody, the media, the officials, the fans. But that's not just talent that he was born with. It's talent that he acquired along the way. So with that, Jerry, let me just throw it to you, throw the pass over to you, and just talk about a little bit about your career. And there's ups and downs, but you've had the best career of anybody in the country. You're the most recognizable official in any sport in the country for the last 50 years, and you've done a wonderful job giving back to the industry, our football industry. A couple thoughts from you, Jerry, please.
Thanks, Bill. There really isn't, there's no secret to officiating. And if you're out there in the audience and you've never officiated, and I looked at a play and I don't know what I would have done, or I don't know that much about the rules of the game, how could I ever become an official? No one starts knowing anything. That's the beauty of this. If someone influences you to do something, just go into it. There are people all over the world and the country that will help you. Everybody that becomes successful in officiating gets it from other people. There's nothing original in officiating. Everybody dresses the same, they all look the same, but they get the nuances and all of the special things from all of the people that are successful. When I made my persona in officiating, it was part of 20 people. I put it all together and became me. But it really wasn't me, it was 20 other people. Where you carry your flag, how you carry your whistle, how you do all these things. But don't be afraid to get into it. Officiating made my life. I'm 85 years old. I started officiating in college when I was 19. And because of Bill Carollo, who keeps old men around officiating, I'm still active. How could that be? It's 66 years I've been around football. I love football. Don't worry about the mistakes. No one goes into it thinking, of course you're going to make mistakes. You make mistakes in real life. The best part of officiating are the people that you meet and the friendships you develop and the camaraderie. Referee Magazine had a contest and they said, in 6 words, what do you think about officiating? And I just jotted down and I said, all my best friends are officials. And he published that. And I thought to myself, why did that come out? Because it's true. My social friends don't understand all of the years of officiating. They never understood. It didn't make any difference. Because if you don't officiate, you don't get it. People that officiate have that special inside of them that tells them they're doing something wonderful. The games cannot be played without officials. Stepping out on the field in the lousiest weather with nobody in the stands gives you a feeling of wonderment because you're in charge of that football game. It's the most wonderful feeling in the world. I've gone from Pop Warner football to the B'nai B'rith Touch Football League at Grant Park of Chicago to the Super Bowl. And when I stepped out to work a Super Bowl game, I thought to myself, how could this be? How could I possibly, this can't be me. I'm a little Jewish guy from Skokie, Illinois. There's no way I could have ever. Who could select me? It was all of the years of help and encouragement from associations, and the associations in Indiana are the best in the country. People that are listening here, get into officiating. It made my life. I'm not exaggerating. I'm the perfect example of a guy that knew nothing about officiating. I played a little football. I thought I knew the rules of the game, but officiating opened up a world to me that has never gone away. And you look at people like Bill Carollo, who in his prime as a Big Ten referee, one of the best ever, walked off the field at 57 years old to take over the helm of 3 major college conferences and auxiliary conferences to help officiating. He gave up 10 years that he could have worked on the field. He had a calling because he understands, as I understand, and that everyone on this call understands, officiating is a way of life. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter how much criticism you get. It's the excitement of finding out on a daily basis how good you are at what you do. How good am I? Am I going to have a bad game? Am I going to make some mistakes? Of course. But in the long run, I'm going to find out how good I am. And I'm going to meet that test. I'm taking that final exam every single play of every game. That 175 or 80 plays, you're on your toes for every second of it. It's the most wonderful thing you could do with your life. And all of you young people that are listening, take my word for it. It's the best of the best of the best. And thank you. And Bill, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. And I'm sure I'm about 1/10 as good as that, but I'll take it.
Well, Jerry, you're one that doesn't need ever and they all know you worked 4 Super Bowls and 8 or 9 championship games and everything else. And there's no other accolade that you haven't received. And we just appreciate everything you do for the industry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We can't hear you, Sandra.
I think they're all ready to sign up. Thank you, gentlemen. Fabulous. Certainly appreciate your time, your expertise, your words of wisdom. My goodness. Panelists, anything else to add to our conversation with Bill and Jerry before we go to our next and final slide?
Sandra, this is Bill. I want to just throw one thing out that I want to make sure that this group really does understand if I don't get it in a question. We are actively looking for officials, and we get a lot of people applying. We're actively looking to cast the net even wider, more diverse, more inclusive, for minorities, for female officials. We have developmental programs for female officials, developmental programs for Black, Brown, Asian, whatever diversity that we're looking for, because we're really lacking in those areas. And we have the money. The Big Ten has a program, and we reach all the way down to the local associations to help develop a more diverse group. And my attitude is cast the net as wide as possible. We're interested in everybody, and we feel that we're comfortable that we can train everybody. Jerry's Mark Bright, the most decorated official. We all started not knowing anything about officiating. His dad wasn't official. My dad wasn't official. You know, we didn't learn at the kitchen table. So we're actively looking and trying to be as inclusive as possible. And that's a big part of our program going forward.
Perfect, Bill. And we echo those sentiments here in Indiana as we cast that net very broadly. We are the more the merrier. Anybody who's got an interest, we have an interest in them, certainly. And we do need to increase our female officials, certainly. And any other group that's wished to be a part of this, any person who's got some time and wants to give back to the game. Those are the only 2 requirements we have. Andrew, questions from the group that you've seen or were text to you that we could answer or the panelists could answer?
Yeah, I got a couple questions out there. First of all, there's a lot of people that are chiming in and just thanking everybody for their time and their expertise that's been out here. And they do recognize a lot of those pretty faces like Jerry and Bill and Robert and all those folks out there. They do recognize those faces and they appreciate their time and they're excited just to hear stories from you folks. The couple things, people are interested in registering already, and I think they've taken the first step registering by just being on this webcast that we have. So that just answering the question there is, if you're on here, you have taken that first step, and we will be touching base with you a little bit later just to get back to you. So other than that, that's about the only few questions that I've had, just that people are excited, and it sounds like we have some potential NFL and Big Ten officials out there, hopefully in the next 5, 7, 8 years.
Fantastic. Please be aware that we will share this presentation with you. It is in the handout if you want to print it out, but we will share this with all attendees after tonight to include the clips of our speakers. And again, speakers, thank you very much. Kevin, Bill, Jerry, certainly appreciate your time. So to Andy's point, what's next? January, February, March. Attendees, please expect a couple of video clips to come your way via email. You gave us that when you registered. We'll include that with a question or two, let you make the call, and then try to get you into a feeling of officiating for the first time. We'll also interview a few folks along the way and send them your way as well, again, via email, January, February, March. In April 12th to be exact, we will once again meet virtually, just as we are tonight. We're going to get a visit from a couple of newer officials to share some experiences from them with you. At that point, we've had you for not one but 2 meetings, so we are going to send you your rule books, provide you with your exam that we will assist with in completing. Molly, through Indiana Sports Corp, is purchasing your official shirt for you, your uniform. And so, Molly, again, thank you, and Indiana Sports Corp, for providing the officiating garment for every attendee we have. And then through the IHSAA, we will hook you up with a mentor. So sometime between January, February, March, expect a quick little survey. We need to know which city you live so we can hook up a mentor for you in close proximity. So we'll be reaching out to you to collect that additional information January, February, March. And then in April, we'll have a similar program for about an hour. And then Saturday, June 26th, we will have an actual physical clinic. Hopefully everything is back to what we refer to as normal. David Green is one of our panelists here with us tonight. David is the president of the IFOA, and the IFOA puts this clinic on. They do a fabulous job. And at this time, David, would you share a little bit about what they can expect?
Sure, thanks. The IFOA is the Indiana Football Officials Association, and we represent about 800 football officials in the state. Our primary goal is education of those officials, and our crowning jewel event is our clinic in late June. So June 26th, you should circle that date. We want to have you come to Marian University in Indianapolis, where we will have 40 or more clinicians that are state high school championship level officials, NCAA officials, and even NFL officials who will be on the field with you and in the classroom with you as you will finish your football exam, get your high school license, and step out on the field with 8 local teams that we'll have for scrimmages that day. So circle that date, and we hope to see you in Marion on June 26th.
Perfect, David. Thank you. Mark and Andy, you run through the exam with them. You want to include anything there with that classroom session in the morning?
Real quick,
we'll do
I
our
just
best
want to jump in. Hey, Mark, you can jump on the test. I would just like to say I'd like to say to everybody out there, hey, if you got friends out there, don't forget to spread the word to them too. We'd be happy for you to come down to that IFOA clinic and bring a friend. I mean, more the merrier. So Mark, talk a little bit about the test.
Well, the test is an online test, and it's an open book test, which is pretty easy, and I passed it too. So, I mean, I know that's about easy for anybody to pass it, but you'll have this from April until June to kind of go through it. You'll have rules references on the test. You won't have the answer, but you'll have rules references so that you can go check the rule book. You know, somebody told me, a wise old sage told me one day, you know, if you get your nose in a rule book, there's a lot of really nice stuff in there if you just get your nose in there and look. So once we get to the June portion, the morning will be taken up yet an hour or two of going through the test itself and answering questions, and then we'll shoot you out of there right after lunch to get you on the field and work with some of the best clinicians this country has, both high school. You'll learn the high school mechanics. It will be a certification clinic for those that need certification, but just rest assured that once you walk out of that clinic on Saturday afternoon, you will be a licensed official with the state of Indiana to work football games from the freshman on up to the high school level. So we'll be there to help you out.
Perfect. Thank you. And let's be clear, April 12th is a must attend in order to take advantage of your free official shirt with Molly. You've got to collect your data before then. The rules books will offer you and everything listed here. So April 12th is the next time we expect to see you. Invite a friend, as Andy said, to that date. We'll collect all the information at that point and then get you ready for June 26th. All right, panelists, anything else to, as far as information for our attendees before we wrap it up for this evening?
Sure. If anybody's out there taking that test, Mark and I are always available, and I believe you have our information. We are always available to answer a question if you get stuck somewhere. I know you have the rule references, but sometimes the books can be a little tricky, and we are always open to any questions or help you need at any time.
I would say that goes for everybody on this panel. And it's just, it goes without saying that, you know, from high school to college to NFL officials throughout the state are always accessible and are always willing to answer questions. I want to thank, you know, everybody for attending tonight. And I want to thank all of our panelists and Molly with the Sports Corp and Sandra and Robert with the IHSAA and Bill and Jerry with the Big Ten and, you know, Andy and Dave and Mark. You guys did an awesome job. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you all.
We certainly appreciate you. Go ahead.
I'm good.
Well, thank you. We promised about an hour, and we overshot by just a few, but I think it was time well spent. We hope you feel the same. We will look forward to contacting you again through January, February, March to stay connected, and then we'll see everyone back here April 12th. We will send out the registration link again to this group. So again, we appreciate your time. Anticipate the video version of this to come your way in the next few days as well. Panelists, thank you for your time this evening. We'll look forward to meeting again together in April.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.